was not by chance when we all met each other. Craig, one of the owners of a casino. Chelsea, one who works in business relations, often involved with the various companies on the strip. Lisa, the one with experience being a model, ranging from Women's Health magazine to advertising huge events held in the multi-billion-dollar hotels, all the way down to the JCPenney catalog. And me, a stubborn man that hit it big with selling a robust electronic super long-range camera system integrated with drones that the military found interest in. So within 8 months after introducing it to our military, I have found myself as a 28-year-old, overachieved, overpaid, and overdue for a nice getaway. Once you have a certain number of figures in your bank account, there are two groups of friends that come about. Some out of the woodwork trying to convince you that you are a great person and you would be even better if you were to help them out for a month by giving them a little slice of the money. And then you have a group that I can deal with, for the most part. The ones who have just as much money or even more. Once you've made it big as a local in Vegas, the other well-off locals are easy to come by. Me, Lisa, Craig, and Chelsea all live in a nice neighborhood. Conversations were easy to strike up between them. A simple wave to one another as you were outside enjoying the Nevada sun would lead to a simple get-together. And soon enough, drinks by the pool, in mine or their backyard. From nights out on the strip to see the latest Cirque du Soleil show, to getting involved with stocks for a certain casino company, you are not wrong to think that we used the buddy system. This had gone well for so long until I realized that I had not seen other parts of the world yet. I have enough money to do it, so what am I waiting for? I decided to talk to Lisa about it first. Given that I had a bit of an eye for her, I figured I'd hold off on asking Craig if he was interested in taking the trip, given that he was a bit of a high-strung kind of guy. If he had the slightest notion that some kid from Harvard had arrived at his casino to count cards and steal all that he is worth, he was not fun to hang around with. Once I talked to Lisa, after about 30 seconds of convincing her about a trip to Europe, I asked Craig if he would want to go, and it would be cool if he would ask Chelsea and see if she was interested in going as well. By the end of the day, we all had agreed it was time to take a good 2 weeks traveling around Europe. That night, I decided to invite the three over for some cocktails and plan out where we would like to go first. Perhaps get in contact with one of the owners from some of these hotels overseas, just to make a good bond between us. You want some advice? Make friends that are in high positions and as many different places as you can. Only people that you see as a good candidate, though. Not some random person that makes you feel as though you got to keep an eye on them. As we gathered around the table, there was a knock on the door. Funny enough, it was around this time yesterday that somebody knocked on my door. But just like yesterday, nobody was there when I answered it. I checked around the corner of the house and in the bushes nearby. Probably some bratty, annoying kid that lives nearby. I didn't pay it much mind until it happened again about 30 minutes later. This time I rushed over to the door, looking through the peephole but seeing nobody. Just as I opened the door, I hear laughter from children. Assuming they were around the corner, I told them, "You've got me, but please stop. I'm trying to rest." Trying to make them feel a little guilty. I'm not the one for confrontation to some bratty kids, or not to deal with kids in the first place for that matter. When they are a year old, they're only cute if they're yours, and every other kid looks like a troubled Pillsbury Doughboy. The only baby that probably looked like a halfway decent human being was probably Lisa. I'm sure she could have modeled for Gerber if she had the chance. I was getting sick of these kids knocking on the door, so this was a whole other reason to have a little getaway. After about an hour and a half looking at different places to go, we finally decided on Ireland. "Ireland sounds like a great idea," I exclaimed. Chelsea said, "Yeah, instead of kids knocking on the door, it's going to be grown adults drunk off their rocker." "Well, at least I know they won't move very fast and I can be sure who it is," I said jokingly. They ended up leaving several hours after some good laughs, and by this time it was near midnight. As I started walking out of the kitchen, about to head upstairs, I hear a loud bang on the door. Startled, more than angry, I stopped dead in my tracks. I didn't want to go over to the door, so I slowly dipped behind the wall connected to the kitchen where I had my knife set nearby. I went ahead and grabbed the biggest knife I had. Wouldn't this be some crazy event, I thought to myself. I've just booked a vacation to Europe next month and I have stabbed somebody trying to enter my home. Not a bad way to mix things up after a while. I didn't call 911 in spite that it could have been Craig just messing around after he knew I was irritated by these kids knocking on my door. But I certainly didn't want to go closer to the door. So I sat down in the chair in the kitchen with some cookies and milk I was going to enjoy in my bedroom. As my milk probably started to get lukewarm, I'm sure I looked like a complete psycho just sitting there with a knife in my hand staring down the opening and at my front door. In a way, I hoped this position would freak out any intruder more than them freaking me out. I've really got nothing to lose, so I can play the waiting game for a while. But as I said before, I was a bit freaked out. I won't lie to you. As I had the feeling this was not a little kid that was at my door. Finally, the day has come. I am rather excited. We are going to be boarding the plane en route to Europe. No doubt this is going to be a long flight. A long day ahead of us, but I'm ready for it. And by the way, I didn't know there were so many depressed-looking people in first class. Some of these people can be associated with the losers we've seen on the strip, having a midlife crisis. You know, the ones that show up at a tattoo parlor with a backwards hat on and an outfit straight out of a tacky claim-to-be edgy outfitter store, talking with some hip new age lingo while they are well into their 40s. Yes, there are people out there like that, and yes, it is as painful as it sounds. But at this point, I can't help but watch people. Like I said, it's going to be a long flight, so I'm going to have to do something to pass the time. We finally touched down in Heathrow after a long overnight flight, and shortly after, we link up with our flight to Ireland. We will be clocked into Dublin at around 12:30, Craig said. Perfect, I exclaimed. It will be beautiful once we settle into an Irish pub and get some beers. It almost seems unreal to me, though. I can't believe I'm actually overseas. After departing the large island of the beautiful United Kingdom, another large body of land slowly emerges from the clouds. There she is, I say to myself. Good old Ireland. I can hear the Irish bagpipes in my head now. How corny, but you must understand that this is my first time ever going to Ireland. Will it be my last time? Well, I sure hope not. I can't begin to tell you how exciting it's been. I've only slept on the plane ride from the United States to the United Kingdom, but we are so energized. We've got ourselves set up in this nice hotel in Dublin. With all the suitcases put away, it's time to hit the town. Now, we are going to be here for 2 more days, Craig reminded us. We can see all of the city of Dublin while we are here, but we should look at going up to the cliffside of Ireland today. They've got beautiful landscapes all over the coastline and lighthouses in various parts. Maybe some good old-fashioned Irish cooking, too. Admittedly, Dublin was a bit commercialized, just like any other city nowadays. Craig was adamant, though, about trying food from the country part of Ireland. However, I know he was surprised of how good the pub was when we stopped in Dublin, that this place Chelsea had recommended. I could stay in this pub all day, but we ended up getting a couple taxis to take us up to the countryside. I rode with Lisa, and Chelsea and Craig rode together in the other cab. Our cab driver made great conversations. At least all the words I could understand seemed friendly. He could have cussed me out, and I probably still would have nodded and said yes and smiled. The taxis finally take us to this little town that was a good hub for us if we had to go back, or if we had to stay the night. But my attention was immediately taken by one of these lighthouses just off in the distance. Not separated by water, we were able to walk to the lighthouse. How amazing is this? We spent hours on the coastline, checking it out, eating some fish and chips from a local family-owned restaurant nearby. The smell of the crisp, cool Celtic coastline air. "A big storm is headed this way," one of the family members of the restaurant said. "Best get some place to stay soon." We weren't going to stay in the restaurant. This place is very small. We didn't want to intrude either. We would have to go back to the little town a couple miles away. I was able to see the lighthouse still and use that as a reference point. So Craig and Chelsea said that we should start making our way back. We could take a look at the coastline again and walk a little bit closer to the water before the land takes us up onto the hill. We started making our way down the waterline. Waves coming closer to us due to the tide. The moon looked amazing. This is something straight out of a fairy tale, an image only some people have in their head. And here I am, walking about. Lightning hit the water out in the distance. The wind started picking up more, waves coming in stronger. The hill that would take us up on top of the cliff was coming up. The lighthouse, even closer to us, but still a good distance away. About a mile, I would think. As I was just staring at the lighthouse, lightning had just struck it. It was as if my eyes had just summoned a lightning bolt to hit the lighthouse. Rain started impacting us from the left side. The ground leading up to the cliff started becoming muddy, and a few of us slipped as we tried getting up there. Just keep moving up the hill, I thought to myself. Don't try to look for another way around. I knew we would be walking for another few miles if we tried going back. The waves come crashing up onto the rocks and onto the hill we were trying to make our way up on. The wind howling through the rough terrain of the rocks. "There's not a lot blocking this wind," I said aloud, and all of a sudden, a huge wave engulfed the path in front of us. Out of all this chaos, I heard clearly children laughing. Am I hallucinating or what? As though the water looked like it decimated the cliffs, I saw Craig's body being pulled down from the cliff due to the water. He let out a yell, and I saw his arms reach out as if to try to clamber onto something, anything that he could get his hands on. And that's when I heard it. His body had hit a pointed rock part of the cliff. My mind raptured at first, thinking he was okay, he just had to come back up. But when I looked down and saw a vibrant puddle of blood where Craig had landed first, and then just below that, Craig's body floating lifeless on the surface of the water. The girls called out his name. No response from Craig. The feeling of us being Mother Nature's unwelcome guests was soon consuming my mind, as if I had made the decision that will soon end my life, as it had just claimed one victim already. After trying to call out to Craig, we made a run for the top side of the cliff. Higher ground is what we needed as the waves crashed behind us, as if it was scorching the last bit of land that we were just stepping on. I have never felt this type of fear before. Our adrenaline pumping. "Head for the lighthouse," I shouted. However, I know that that was probably where they were headed already. "We need shelter. Then we can gather help for Craig," I thought to myself. "There has to be someone in the lighthouse. Look, there." I see somebody in the window. I'm waving my hands about to get their attention. I'm sure they see us. They have to. But as we get closer, I can no longer see them in the window. Maybe they're coming out to give us shelter. We started banging on the door. We yell, "We need help. We need shelter. One of our friends is in serious condition." And nobody is coming to the door. I grab the handle and twist. It's definitely locked. I slam on the door, unable to hear how loud I'm banging, as it's masked by the thunder, rain, and wind. kick the door open and we filter into the lighthouse. Finally, it's quiet enough to hear each other, but we don't see anybody around. "Hello?" I call out. "We need help." I fumble around near the wall to find the light switch, as it is pitch black inside. I finally turn the lights on, but what I see is beyond my expectation. As I turn the lights on, I see the inside of the house, but all is way too familiar. It is my place. Everything is set up exactly like my place. Everything, from the same couch to the same rug, to the same TV, the same kitchen layout, the same painted walls. This is basically the same blueprints as my house was built off of. Everything is the same as mine, but every detailed object has an eeriness to it. Everything is an exact copy of what I have at home, but I know it's not mine. None of this is mine. I turn to look at Chelsea and Lisa, but I can't even find them. I call out their names, but in the middle of me calling out, I feel hands around my neck, and everything went black. I feel myself slowly regaining consciousness. I know I'm not the only one here. I know that there is somebody nearby. I just can't see anybody. Where are my friends?
You will be joining them here shortly.